All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. So today we're going to be talking about my top 3 finesse baits for October. Now, with us going into this, I want you to understand this does not neglect the fact that the baits that I talked about in September doesn't carry into this month, but this is going to be 3 that you can expand on. That's helped me out a lot, especially, you know, late September, and it's going to transition throughout October, okay? But either way, real quick, before we jump into the video, we're working with Thunderhawk Lures now, so if you're interested in getting their products, a lot of the products that you'll see on my channel is Thunderhawk products. If you want to check out their stuff, go to thunderhawklures.com. When you go to checkout, go to the discount part, put in CPosey20, you'll get 20% off, and it helps me out a whole lot. We're also working with Salty Captain. Check those out a lot. Also, if you want to keep your stuff clean, use Colton15 at checkout. You'll get 15% off, and it helps me out a lot. Either way, guys, let's talk about these baits. Stay tuned. This is something you don't want to miss. All right, so let's talk about the top 3 finesse baits. And when we think of October, we're thinking about, you know, especially here in the South where I'm from, it is hot. It is typically hot in October, but we start getting those cooler nights, cooler mornings, and we're starting to transition into fall. You know, where you're at, it may already be a full transition to fall. If it has been, then, you know, the fall turnover video is perfect for you. If you haven't checked that out, check that out. But these baits will also work, you know, if you're in that full fall transition, okay? We're kind of in that in-between right now. We've got some fish that are transitioning in the creeks. We've got some fish that are, you know, staying out on the main lake. We've got some fish that has been in the creeks all summer long, and they're all kind of meeting, migrating, and stuff like that. So, you know, like I always say, you got fish that live on the main lake, die on the main lake, spawn in the main lake. Same with the fish in the creeks, okay? So always keep that in mind whenever you're fishing and you're having a tough day. You can catch fish either or. It's just kind of figuring out what bait. So if you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe. It'd help me out a whole lot. Also, you know, you can stay up to date with any bass fishing tips or anything like that that I put out. Now, first bait, this one right here, the head itself, this is a Queen's tackle head, okay? And I typically run 2 different ones. I run the 1/4 ounce and I run the 3/8 ounce. These are pretty expensive, and I do have to say, Queen's tackle, I don't know what you're doing, but you pay $10 for a head, and I just had a head come completely off of the hook with the keeper and everything else. So it's completely up to you whether you want to buy these to use this technique or not. You can also use hover rig hooks with nail weights in the head, and it'll give it the same action. It's just those hover rig hooks, they're bad about just sliding up the bait, and it's more annoying than anything. Me personally, I'm going to spend $10 on the head just so I ain't got to worry about the bait sliding down every time I reel it in. But either way, you know, run your Fluke style baits. I'm not sure what this bait specifically is called. I've only had 2 of them for a while now, and they've been in a Ziploc bag. If I figure it out, all the baits always will be linked down in the description, including, you know, my gear and all that stuff. So anything that you see in the video will be linked down in the description with links and all that stuff. You just click on it, you go to it, check it out. But either way, 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce Queen's tackle head. And I'm going to show you exactly how I rigged this bait, because this is the most important part. All right, so what I'm going to use for this demonstration, because I don't want to tear that bait up because I've only got 2. I've got that one and one in a Ziploc bag. But either way, we're going to use the Cast Echo. Now, I've been using this Cast Echo. I've been getting bit on it. It's just like they won't commit to it, so I swapped over to that one, and I just like the action of that one a little better. But you know, the key thing is, you know, it's a Fluke style bait. But I'm gonna take that Queen's tackle head, and right in between the eyes, right there, that's where I'm gonna start to insert the bait, just like that, through the head, okay? And here's the key. I want to keep this bait as straight as possible. Don't squeeze the bait. Just gently work that bait up there, and I kind of want that hook coming out almost maybe a 1/4 of an inch from where the indention is in the bait, you know, for your hook keeper. But anyways, once I do that, I'm going to slide that bait all the way up, just like that. Now when I get here and it's rigged like this, I'm going to move that head over. I'm going to grab right behind the eyes, and I'm going to pull that hook just to kind of snug it up, okay? And it'll look just like this when you get done. Now, what this does is when you throw that bait out there and you let it sink and you start to reel it, I typically run this with a fast reel, okay? I'm reeling it just fast enough to not burn it out, and it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but you throw it a little bit, you'll get used to it in no time. 3/8 ounce, you can reel reel it a little bit faster. 1/4 ounce, you have to kind of slow it down a little bit. So, you know, you got to vary your retrieves on this. But either way, you know, you're going to reel this bait. And what this thing does, it comes through the water like a rattle trap. So it's like a perfect little finesse bait, a little snack for the bass. You know, that's, you know, I don't think they see a whole lot, but you know, it's a great technique to catch bass that are suspended, other than using jerk baits and just, you know, jig head minnows and stuff like this. You can use it on 2D sonar, you can use it on forward facing sonar, it doesn't really matter. If you know there's a group of fish suspended there, you can typically bring this bait through. What I typically like to do, I like to throw the bait past the fish, let that bait sink, you know, maybe 1 foot or 2 foot above where those fish are suspended, and then I'm going to burn that bait over the top of them, okay? And typically it just triggers bites, okay? If they get it, you're going to catch multiples out of that school. If they don't get it and they're swiping at it, something's off. It may just be simply a color change, maybe you're using too big a line. But I'm running my normal setup, 10-pound braided line to 8-pound fluorocarbon, as always. And you know, the rod's the key. Medium moderate action, okay? I want a medium moderate action, same rod that I use for swim baits, okay? Small swim baits, okay? And you know, that just, it's got a lot of give to it and stuff like that, so I'm able to, you know, kind of lean into that fish and not have so stiff of a rod that I'm pulling that bait away from the fish when they get it. You know, like I always say, try to use a high gear ratio. Good anti-reverse reel. This is a Lew's American Hero, super cheap, but one of the best reels I've ever had in my life. Had these reels for several years. My personal opinion, you can't beat them, but 6.2 to 1 gear ratio, whatever you want to get, that's just my suggestion. But let's move on to the other one. Now this one's a fun little bait. This kind of fits into that jig style minnow, you know, technique. I use it on my 2D sonar a lot. I use it on my forward facing sonar a lot. Doesn't really matter, it works either or, especially when the fish are schooled up under your boat, okay? Similar to like how you used to work a drop shot. But what this bait does is when you throw it out there and you tight line it, you're going to shake your rod, okay? When you shake that rod, this bait is going to rock side to side, just like that. I'm using the VMC Moon Eye, or VMC Hybrid Head, I think that's what it's called. Like I said, it'll be linked down in the description. But either way, I'm rigging it on a Rapala freeloader, okay? I use these freeloaders for techniques like this. I use it on chatterbait, so they have multiple, you know, different things that you can, you know, work with it on. But this is perfect when those fish get under the boat, or if they're kind of far out on your forward-facing sonar and you want to throw that bait just a little bit past them or drop it down right on top of them. I'm sticking to my 1/4 ounce and my 3/8 ounce. 3/8 ounce on super windy days like today, 1/4 ounce, you know, if it's not near as windy and the fish kind of want a slower fall rate. But you're really going to trigger a lot of bites with this technique. Just make sure you're shaking your rod. You want to shake it pretty violently, okay, to get that side to side rock. A lot of people say tie a loop knot. My personal opinion, I'm tying my normal trilene knot and I see just as much action as I do with a trilene knot. I don't see really any difference. Me personally, I don't see any difference. You know, if you have any suggestions on throwing that, drop a comment down below. Love to hear from you guys. We can all learn something from each other, which is always awesome. Also, 10-pound, 8-pound leader, Lew's American Hero. Now this rod, this is a Lew's Laser SG1. I've had this rod for years, 7-foot medium heavy, okay? I am using the medium heavy on this, so I do have to drop my drag a little bit where it's a little bit more loose, okay? Since it's a super stiff rod, I want to give them a little bit of give, okay? Because a lot of times they're going to nip at this bait. A lot of times they're going to take the tail off, but this is a great way to trigger bites and hopefully get a school fired up. This time of year is typically just really hard. It can be very, very difficult to catch fish, but you know, my goal is kind of like a lot of y'all, like most of y'all that's on my YouTube, y'all are like me. Y'all like to go out and just catch fish, period. And that's just the way that I like to fish. It makes me feel like a kid. It makes me feel, I just have a good time when I fish like that. So, you know, that's where kind of all these baits are based around. So this is a great way to, you know, fire up schools. And, you know, another thing that I didn't talk about, I forgot to mention, a lot of times this year, these fish are so used to seeing the small baits like that 3.5 inch Echo. Swap into these bigger baits, the 4, 5, 6 inch baits can even trigger a lot of bites just because they're not used to seeing it again. That big swim bait y'all saw me throw, I think it was the video before last or the last video, something like that. Going up in size when these fish are used to seeing the small baits can trigger a lot more bites, and you'll have a lot more of a successful day on the water. All right, so now this next one is one of those things where it's it's just kind of like give and take, okay? I have a love and hate relationship with this particular technique. You will catch a lot of fish on it, but it's one of those things that I really don't like to throw unless I have to. And then, you know, late September, even pretty much through the middle of October here in Alabama, it gets pretty tough fishing, and you kind of have to have a drop shot, right? So, you know, if you haven't saw how I tie drop shot, I've got a reel. Just go check out my reels. I can teach you how to tie a drop shot in less than 60 seconds, okay? There's nothing to it. There's just a few key details when you're tying it that you need to do to make sure this bait, when you throw that bait out there, okay, when you throw that bait out there, that it's gonna sit straight out, okay? But either way, you know, throwing the right types of baits, throwing the right types of gear is going to be key to you catching a lot of fish on a drop shot. And the reason I have a love and hate relationship with drop shots is because sometimes it can be extremely boring. So either way, you know, you swap up your weights. Your weights is going to determine, you know, your rate of fall. But one of the things that I really like to run on this drop shot, this is the Little Bird by Thunderhawk. And you know, this has got that flat belly, okay, so it's kind of like that jackal bait that I used to talk about. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's very, very similar. The sleek style of it is very, very similar to that jackal bait. Also, it's got that Elastec, okay guys, so you know, it's super strong. It's really hard to tear this bait up, and I'm typically going to nose hook it, and then sometimes I will actually take this bait. Let me grab this other one since it's already been chewed up. But sometimes I will take this bait, instead of just nose hooking it, I will go through the head of the bait, right, and then come out about halfway and then just rig it just like this. It just makes it a little bit more secure, helps place that hook a little bit further back, you know, maybe if they're short striking. Another great thing you can do, you can take it and hook it right slightly towards the nose, not right in the middle like your wacky rigging, but this does similar to a wacky rig, and it goes through the water just like that. But one of the key features to this bait that I absolutely love, especially when nose hooking, and it makes a world of difference, and you wouldn't think that it would. And Thunderhawk's got all different kinds of colors, so you know, if you want a straight green pumpkin, they've got stuff like that. But either way, look at this tail. See the tail? Those ribs are pointed forward towards the head of the bait, and what happens is when this bait falls, it creates resistance. In return, it gives it a little bit slower fall rate, but as that thing's falling, the tail's just a kicking. So, you know, it gives it a little bit more action. It's something a little different, and it's subtle, you know. But taking this bait, dropping it on top of fish, or throwing it out to fish and shaking it. One of the cool things that I do like about this bait, especially on this drop shot, and another way I like to rig it is on a dart head, simply because of that tail. Because when you go to reel that bait, that tail will start kicking, and it creates resistance, okay? And you know, it just puts a little bit of vibration in the water, but it's super, super, super subtle, just like spy baits or anything like that. A lot of times this time of year, you're going to have to go to something more subtle. But either way, 10-pound braided line, 8-pound fluorocarbon, 6:2 to 1 gear ratio. This is that Powell mistake rod I talk about all the time that I've had since Moby Dick was a Minnow. 6'10", extra fast, light rod. Yeah, I still don't remember the action and the weight and all that stuff of it because squirrel, you know. So ADHD kicks in, I guess, ADD, whatever it's called. But either way, guys, I really appreciate you stopping by. If the video helps you at all, make sure to like, subscribe for more content. I got you covered when it comes to anything bass fishing. Also, if you got any comments, drop a comment down below, guys. I love hearing from you guys, love learning from you guys. That's something that we base this community around, is really learning and sharing our experiences, because I mean, we're all kind of stuck on this rock together, right? We might as well all get along. So either way, thank you guys, I appreciate it. Hope to hear from you. Also, you know, if you want to get cool merchandise, hats, shirts, anything like that, check out my Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. See what shirts you like, shoot me a message. Ship to your door, $25. That includes shipping. So either way, guys, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.